it was all about sovereignty issue.
A look back at the high Arctic relocations of Inuit families.
Beaucoup de matières là, qui peuvent être peut-être, on se rend pas compte de.
A University of Montreal program aims to boost Indigenous leaders.
And if we implement those rights, we will strengthen the trans community to stand in the face of this rising tide of hate and violence.
On the International Trans Day of Remembrance, NDP MPs are calling for the protection of transgender rights. Good evening and welcome to APTN National News. I'm Savannah Kelly. Nearly 70 years after the fact, the memory of the high Arctic relocations of Inuit from northern Quebec to northern Nunavut still lingers in people's memories. Trevor Wright brings us this.
In 1953, around 92 Inuit from the northern Quebec community of Inuvialuk were forcibly relocated by the federal government to what became the two highest communities in Canada, Resolute Bay and Grise Fiord. During this time, the United States and Soviet Union were scaling up their activities in the Arctic Circle, threatening to erode Canada's claims in the high Arctic. Larry Outlook was 3 years old when his family was relocated to Grise Fiord.
It was all about sovereignty issue, Canadianizing this part of the Arctic versus, well, again, the military, the scientific community, and weather station against the American Cold War. It was all turns out to be part of a Cold War during the 60s with the Americans and Russians.
Despite promises that they would be able to return, they were never able to.
Like my mother was the witness right there when I was growing up. She says, I was right there when your father was being told that we at any time are not happy and dissatisfied. We want to, we can tell the government and they can take us back right away.
In 1988, as a result of lobbying from several Inuit groups, the Feds sponsored a return to northern Quebec. Around 40 individuals chose to return. Many younger Inuit chose to stay. Juadimi was a part of the younger generation. He was born a few years after his family was relocated from Inuvialuk in 1953. He says there's a generational division between those born before and after the relocations.
So one of these northern Quebec elders saying, I went to my uncle Simeone and I asked him, which would you prefer, caribou or Arctic char? To my surprise, he said Arctic char. I want more Arctic char than I want caribou. Turn out in northern Quebec, if you really look at from the way high, there's a lot of little lakes. In northern Quebec Inuit, they survived on Arctic char quite a bit. Mm-hmm.
Surviving to the new environment wasn't easy. The Inuit from Quebec had to adapt to a new environment where the sun goes away for months in the winter. There were no buildings at the time and many slept in tents for years. Larry wrote about the experiences of the high Arctic exiles in his book, What I Remember. He says there was little effort by the federal government to record or even communicate with Inuit who were relocated.
Nothing could be found, and the government claimed they never made any promises, but there was a lot of verbal talk, and the government civil servants like RCMP in this case argued that they didn't do things on purpose to hurt us. Of course, that's, but the communication from Inuit to English was non-existent, or if any, very little.
Despite these experiences, Larry calls Grise Fiord home. It's where he grew up.
Yeah, this is home. I grew up here. This is the home that I know and have lifetime of friends here and people.
Yeah, I wasn't really affected other than by the fact that the stories that my mum and all the elders used to talk about in northern Quebec. I've never been there. Days of life I grew up in, so it just became like home. And even though a lot of people would say, you know, it's really cold, but when you grow into an environment, we adapt to it, and basically that's how we survived. It's like.
In 2010, the federal government formally apologized for the Inuit relocations. 2 statues commissioned by Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated in Resolute Bay and Grise Fjord were erected to commemorate the High Arctic exiles. Trevor Wright, APTN National News, Grise Fjord, Resolute Bay.
We want to hear what you think about the legacy of relocating Indigenous communities. Here's how to continue the conversation. If you have a story you want to share, send us an email to news@aptn.ca. To read and watch our stories, go to aptnnews.ca. You can find us online on your favorite social media sites, including TikTok, YouTube, LinkedIn, and X, previously known as Twitter. Follow APTN News to join the conversation and see our latest stories. Events were held across the country Monday to commemorate the International Trans Day of Remembrance. It honors trans, two-spirit, and gender-diverse people who have disproportionately lost their lives to hate-motivated violence. It dates back to 1999 when it was first held to honor the memory of Rita Hester, a trans woman who was murdered in 1998. Cheyenne Migo Kiu is the executive director of Edmonton's Two-Spirit Society. They say there is no hate in Indigenous teachings, and there must be compassion and respect for trans and gender-diverse people.
And that's why it's important that we take a day like today to honor people that we've lost and hold them close, but also celebrate all of the joy for those who are surviving and thriving and overcoming all of those processes and finding a way to balance the pain with the joy.
NDP MPs stood together with 2 trans rights activists at a press conference in Ottawa today. They're calling on the Liberals to ensure the rights and safety of trans people across the country are protected. Bill C-16 was passed 7 years ago. It put transgender rights into the Canadian Human Rights Code and into the hate crime section of the Criminal Code. They're calling on leaders and Canadians to take a strong stance against the rising hate and violence expressed against the transgender community. NDP MP Randall Garrison said it's time for action.
What we haven't done as a society is make those rights a reality. And so we put forward a white paper in June that has 29 recommendations, about how to make those rights a reality. And if we implement those rights, we will strengthen the trans community to stand in the face of this rising tide of hate and violence.
Elected chiefs, Quebec politicians, and family and friends came out to support graduates of the Montreal University's First Nations education program. The grad ceremony marked the 2nd anniversary of the Indigenous Executive Education Program, where the university awarded more than 100 certificates and attestations. The program's goal is to enhance leadership effectiveness. 46 First Nations instructors teach courses alongside Montreal University professors. Grand Chief Constant Awashish from the Atikamekw Nation completed the program. He said it was very enriching.
C'est un très bon programme là, pour les leaders autochtones. Il y a beaucoup de matières là, qui peuvent être peut-être, on ne se rend pas compte dans l'action tous les jours, les opérations qu'on fait, mais ça nous permet d'avoir une meilleure perspective là, du travail qu'on fait. Comment je pourrais dire ça? Toute la question hiérarchique, comment les décisions se prennent, le processus de décision également.
Coming up after the break, we continue our interviews with the candidates running for the National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. Stay with us. Welcome back to APTN National News. There's less than 2 weeks left in the election campaign for National Chief of the Assembly of First Nations. We're speaking with all of the candidates ahead of the December 6th vote. Our guest today is Dean Sayers from the Batchewana First Nation, located on the eastern shores of Lake Superior. Dennis Ward spoke to him earlier about his campaign. Here's that interview.
Dean Sayers, thanks so much for being with us.
Good afternoon, Dennis. It's good to be with you as well.
Well, it's been a tumultuous year for the Assembly of First Nations with the former National Chief's removal this summer and claims of bullying and harassment within the organization. What do you think needs to be done for the AFN to move forward?
Thank you. As I go across the country and I talk to the chiefs in the different regions, I'm hearing the need that's being recognized to invest in a reconciliation approach within the AFN, and talking about its instruments that we've created over time, including the Secretariat, the political office, the regional chiefs, or the executive, along with the National Chief's office, along with the chiefs. There needs to be a path of reconciliation that we need to embark on. We need to invest in. We need to look after our staff. We need to look after those relationships that are integral for us to be productive. And in my work over time, I've come across a lot of incredible people that are focused on and provide that in our communities. The healing, the reconciliation processes. We have the answers within our community to be able to fix this internal issue amongst ourselves. And we need to do this healing amongst ourselves and do the work amongst ourselves. And in preparation for the big jobs that we need to really be prepared for in the next few years, in regards to relationships that we might have not only amongst ourselves, but with other governments like Canada and the provinces.
Well, what do you say to those, within the grassroots who feel that the AFN no longer has their best interests at heart?
Well, historically, and I've been involved representing the 133 chiefs in Ontario for a number of years now on the Charter Renewal Committee, which is an AFN committee that was struck by the chiefs in Assembly. And our role was to take a look at the existing foundational document. We refer to it as the Charter. And the Charter outlines the mandates, how we're going to operate, what our roles are at the AFN, and it's fairly archaic. It's decades old, and it needs to be renewed. We've been working on making changes to that so that it is truly evolved with society and with our communities and with our leadership. It was initially a chiefs organization that was set up to advocate and lobby on behalf of the chiefs, but we're hearing that the mandate needs to be broadened, needs to be brought up to speed, needs to be modernized. We only hear some just minimal expressions of the overall renewal of the AFN, because we've not taken the time in the last short while to get a real deep sense of the perspective of everybody from coast to coast to coast, whether they be communities, First Nations leadership, chiefs, councils, youth. We need to get that insight. We need to get feedback. We need to engage people and actually start to work through a process of making those changes that modernize the AFN. So yeah, I agree. We do need to take a look at the Charter, take a look at the role of the AFN, and I've been a part of the process, and I hope that I can continue to be a part of that process from my role as the National Chief, making sure that all of these, not only this committee, but other committees that have been struck by the chiefs over time, can be continuing in their role that the collective of the chiefs across the country have in mind.
If you were elected as the next National Chief, what would be your top priority, something you'd like to accomplish in the coming year?
Well, I really look forward to, while I was the chief in Batchewana, the chiefs' assemblies at the AFN. I've noticed that in my attendance that we can tweak how we conduct those assemblies so that they are more aligned with the wishes of the chiefs. In particular, I think about how resolutions are brought forward, how reports are brought forward, when they're brought forward. We really need to utilize the chiefs that are in the room earlier on in the agenda to make the decisions. And that's what I'm hearing across the country from the chiefs as well, is that they want to see how we conduct our meetings as a focus at the onset of the term. But we also are recognizing, as I go across the country, the variance and the types of expectations that Indigenous people have from coast to coast to coast. And I'm talking about, in particular, there are pre-Confederation, are pre-existing treaty relationships that a lot of First Nations have. There are also First Nations that are developing their own modern treaties. And then there are the First Nations in areas of Canada where they're not interested in treaties and continue to assert their 100% of their unextinguished jurisdictions. There needs to be tables set from coast to coast that reflect that. There is a diversity, and we can't have a one-size-fits-all approach. And I would really encourage and let Canada know that when we come back to the table after Christmas, when we embark on these discussions and set these tables, that there needs to be a heck of a lot more of these tables that are truly reflective of the diversity of the agreements that Canada has inherited. So I'm hearing that as a big focus from the chiefs as well.
Dean Sayers, we'll have to leave it there. Best of luck to you in the election. Thanks for taking time for us.
Thank you. Miigwech, Dennis.
An Inuvialuk artist has won the Sobey Art Award and the $100,000 grand prize. We speak with artist Kabluziak after the break. Stick around. Welcome back. Time now for our photo of the day. Who is this strolling through Kildonan Park in Winnipeg, Manitoba? Why, it's Muskwa the Chow Chow out for a stroll at the Witch's Hut. Thanks for sharing, Sandra. Be sure to submit your photos to share@aptn.ca for the chance to be our next photo of the day. Now let's take a look at tomorrow's weather forecast. On the East Coast, Halifax, sunshine 3 degrees, Fredericton, rainy and 2. Nain, -1 sunshine there, and Nukjuak, snowy, 1 degree. Val-d'Or, -2 mix of sun and cloud. Saguenay, snowy, -1. Sarnia, rainy at 7 degrees. Sault Ste. Marie, +2. Kapuskasing, mix of sun and cloud, 1 degree there. Big Trout Lake, snowy, 2 degrees. Churchill, snowy, -8 there. Puckatawagan, -9. Brandon, sunshine, 2 degrees there. Gimli, 0. Regina, 4 degrees. North Battleford, +6. Uranium City, snowy and -11. La Ronge, -6. Snowy and -9 in High Level, 5 degrees in Grand Prairie. Calgary, +12. Edmonton, 9 above. Penticton, sunshine, 7 degrees there. Bella Coola, rainy and +5. Dease Lake, snowy, -6. Prince Rupert, +9. Beaver Creek, -24 in snow there. Old Crow, -26. Wrigley, sunshine, -17, -15 in Norman Wells. Tuktoyaktuk, sunshine and -17 there. And New Vic, sunshine as well, -18. Baker Lake, snowy, -8. Chesterfield, -10. Iqaluit, -3 degrees there, and -14 in Clyde River. The 2023 Sobey Art Award winner was announced Saturday night. The prestigious $100,000 prize was awarded to Inuvialuk visual artist Kablusiak. Originally from Yellowknife and currently based in Calgary, Kablusiak's work focuses on Inuit diaspora and pop culture nostalgia. They join us now to discuss their win. Thanks so much for joining us today, Kablusiak. So what does winning the 2023 Sobey's Art Award mean to you?
Thank you for having me. It's just such an incredible honor, and the support from the gallery and the curators, and it's all just it's life-changing for sure.
And how might this win affect your work going forward? Are there any creative projects you already have in mind to pursue?
Totally. I'd love to just explore different materials and different scale and kind of push the limits and have more fun, I feel is what I'm most looking forward to.
And you previously said that your pride lies in making your mom proud. So what did your family say when you won?
That they're so proud, and just that that they're here with me celebrating no matter what. It's incredible just to know that there's so many people behind me. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. And any plans on what you'll do with the $100,000?
Hopefully the housing market will crash soon and everything will be super crazy affordable. So maybe just investing more into my practice and pretty boring responsible adult.
Awesome stuff. Well, we'll have to end it there, but congratulations on the win, and we look forward to seeing what you create next.
Thank you so much. The
Montreal Alouettes are hoisting the Grey Cup after a thrilling last-minute rally over the Winnipeg Blue Bombers.
Down by 3. Time running out. End zone! Touchdown! Tyson Philpott has the catch that has put Montreal ahead in the Grey Cup with 11 seconds to go.
The championship victory is even more impressive when you consider the Alouettes had a rocky off-season that saw the franchise taken over by the league before it was sold in March. For the Bombers, this was their second straight loss at the Grey Cup final.
We went to the playoffs, we said 1%'s believing in us, our fans and every guy in that locker room, and we wanted to go out there and prove them all right. Who cares about all the haters? We wanted to prove the people that backed us right, and we did that tonight.
It means so much. Being a Canadian, I dreamed about this since I was about 6 years old. I envisioned it, and just to get here on the biggest stage and to get it done, man, it feels so good.
Tonight.
The Alouettes upset the Bombers 28-24, capturing their first championship since 2010. Montreal entered the game as an 8-point underdog, but fought back after a dismal first half. It's the Alouettes' 8th Grey Cup championship.
It's so hard for the guys to hear you right now. It's just so fresh. Their mind is just, they're spinning. It's really hard to get perspective, and that takes a lot of time.
Winnipeg has been in the Grey Cup final the last 4 seasons, winning the first 2. In this time of reconciliation, there were some strides in that direction at last night's Grey Cup. Governor General Mary Simon attended the game's opening. The football fan was on hand for the coin toss that decides who kicks off and who returns the ball to get the championship game rolling. The land acknowledgement was made by Leroy Hill of Six Nations territory and Easton and Keaton McNaughton of the nearby Mississaugas of the Credit First Nation. Have a look.
Ani Keaton Disnakas, Mississauga of the Credit Donjaba. Ani Easton Disnakas, Mississauga of the Credit Donjaba. Miigwech kina wiyagi bajayag nongok. Thank you everyone for coming today. Kina Ninawe Donjaba me Mississaugas of the Credit Ninawe Kida Bindage. All of us from Mississaugas of the Credit, we say welcome. Naha! It is time for the 110th Grey Cup Tage!
Awesome stuff there. You could see the pride in their faces, and to be on such a big stage, amazing. Well, that's all the time we have for your Monday news. For news anytime, visit our website at aptn.ca. Marcy, Miigwech, thank you for joining us. Have a great night.